Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a day that's etched in entertainment history, a moment where two queens of showbiz collided in a spectacle that no one saw coming. It was a crisp autumn afternoon in the heart of Hollywood, and the set of the Queen Latifah show buzzed with the kind of electric anticipation that only comes from pairing two larger-than-life icons. Queen Latifah, the undisputed empress of hip-hop soul and silver screen charisma, had invited Dolly Parton, the glittering goddess of country music and timeless rhinestone wisdom, to grace her stage. The episode was billed as a harmonious celebration of women's empowerment, a chat about Dolly's latest ventures in philanthropy and her enduring legacy of hit songs that mend broken hearts across generations. Cameras rolled smoothly at first, the audience erupting in applause as Dolly, resplendent in a custom-embroidered gown that shimmered like a Tennessee sunset, took her seat beside Latifah, who exuded effortless cool in a tailored blazer and jeans that screamed urban royalty. The banter flowed like sweet tea on a porch swing. Stories of Dolly's early days scraping by in the Smoky Mountains, her rise from a coal miner's daughter to a diamond-clad diva, and Latifah's tales of breaking barriers in rap before conquering Hollywood with roles that made audiences cheer and cry in equal measure. Laughter echoed through the studio, the crowd hanging on every quip, every shared glance of mutual admiration. But beneath the surface sparkle, something simmered, a subtle undercurrent of competitive fire that neither woman had anticipated. As the segment progressed, the conversation veered toward their shared passion for music, specifically the gospel-infused harmonies that had bonded them years earlier on the set of their 2012 film Joyful Noise. What started as nostalgic reminiscing about that movie's food fight scene, where Dolly and Latifah hurled dinner rolls with gleeful abandon, began to stir old embers. Dolly, with her trademark wit, joked about how her character's traditional gospel roots clashed with Latifah's modern flair in the film, a playful nod to their on-screen rivalry. The audience chuckled, but Latifah's smile tightened just a fraction, her eyes narrowing with the precision of a performer who's navigated tougher crowds than this. It was innocent enough at the outset, a light-hearted exchange meant to delight fans, but as Dolly elaborated, weaving in anecdotes about how her songwriting philosophy, rooted in raw, heartfelt country truths, had influenced the soundtrack, Latifah leaned forward, her voice dropping an octave. "Dolly, honey, we both know gospel ain't just about them old-timey hymns. It's got that beat, that soul-shaking rhythm that makes the spirit move," she said, her tone laced with a challenge disguised as camaraderie. The studio lights seemed to dim for a split second, the air thickening with unspoken history. Viewers at home, glued to their screens, sensed the shift, whispers rippling through social media like wildfire. This wasn't just talk, it was the prelude to a showdown between two eras, two styles, two unbreakable spirits. And as the commercial break loomed, no one could predict how fiercely those spirits would clash. The stagehands exchanged uneasy glances, the director signaling to keep rolling, unaware that the script they were following was about to be torn to shreds. Dolly, ever the gracious Southern belle, nodded politely, but her fingers drummed a subtle rhythm on her knee, a telltale sign of the storm brewing behind her perfectly coiffed blonde wig. Latifah, sensing the undercurrent, pressed on with a question that cut deeper than intended. "So, Dolly, after all these years, do you ever look back and think maybe injecting a little hip-hop fire into those classics could have taken him even higher?" The words hung there, a gauntlet thrown with velvet gloves, and in that instant, the harmony shattered, giving way to a discord that would echo far beyond the studio walls. As the cameras faded back from break, the studio audience settled into their seats with renewed vigor, expecting more of the warm, fuzzy anecdotes that had charmed them thus far. But Dolly Parton, with her eagle-sharp instincts honed from decades of navigating Nashville's cutthroat circuits, wasn't about to let the subtle dig slide unchallenged. She tilted her head, those famous blue eyes sparkling with a mix of mischief and steel, and launched into a defense of pure, unadulterated country soul that left no room for compromise. "Darlin', I've always said music's like a good pot of stew. You don't mess with the recipe that's been simmerin' for generations just to add some fancy spice that might burn the whole thing down," Dolly drawled, her voice a melodic drawl that masked the barb beneath. The crowd tittered nervously, sensing the pivot from playful to pointed, but Latifah, no stranger to lyrical battles from her rap days, fired back without missing a beat. "Oh, come on now, Miss Dolly, that stew of yours is delicious, but sometimes it needs a kick, a bass line that hits you right in the gut, makes you wanna get up and testify for real, not just sway politely in the pews." The exchange escalated swiftly, words flying like sparks from a flint, each woman drawing on their vast reservoirs of experience to underscore their points. Dolly recounted tales of penning, Jolene, in a single tear-streaked night, emphasizing the raw emotion of acoustic simplicity over layered production, while Latifah countered with memories of UNITY, her anthem that fused beats with messages of empowerment, proving that rhythm could rally the masses. The audience, initially delighted by the authenticity, began to shift uncomfortably as the barbs grew sharper, Dolly accusing modern music of chasing trends like a dog after its tail, and Latifah retorting that clinging to tradition was like refusing to evolve, staying stuck in a time capsule while the world's dancing past you. Backstage, producers huddled in frantic whispers, debating whether to cut to a pre-recorded segment, but the director, mesmerized by the raw drama unfolding, waved them off, muttering, "This is gold, pure, unscripted gold." Social media exploded in real time, hashtags like hashtag Dolly vs Queen and hashtag Music Showdown trending within minutes, fans divided into camps, some cheering Dolly's steadfast authenticity, others rallying behind Latifah's bold innovation. As the dispute deepened, personal histories intertwined with professional pride, Dolly touched on her collaborations with younger artists like Miley Cyrus, her goddaughter, admitting the challenges of bridging generational gaps, only for Latifah to pivot to her own mentorship of rising stars in hip-hop, implying a more seamless integration of old and new. The heat rose palpably, the studio's air conditioning straining against the fervor, beads of sweat glistening on the foreheads of stagehands who darted about like shadows. Viewers tuned in from coast to coast, phones buzzing with notifications, as clips of the escalating argument went viral, drawing in celebrities from both worlds, country crooners tweeting support for Dolly, rap legends live streaming reactions for Latifah. It was more than a debate, it was a cultural crossroads, where the ghosts of Woodstock met the echoes of the Sugar Hill Gang, and neither side yielded an inch. Dolly's laughter, once light and infectious, now carried an edge, a southern steel that could cut glass, while Latifah's posture straightened, her queens-bred resilience shining through. Like sunlight on asphalt, the moderator's attempts to steer back to safer waters, questions about their joint film Joyful Noise and its uplifting message, fell flat, drowned out by the rising tide of passion. In that charged atmosphere, alliances formed and fractured in hearts across America, turning a simple talk show into a battleground for the soul of American music itself. The tipping point arrived like a thunderclap in a clear sky, shattering the fragile veneer of civility that had barely held the conversation together. It began with a seemingly innocuous reference to their on-screen chemistry in Joyful Noise, that 2012 musical comedy where they'd played rival choir directors vying for glory in a national competition. Dolly, warming to the memory, praised the film's heartfelt gospel numbers, crediting her original songs like From Here to the Moon and Back for infusing the project with genuine emotion. But Latifah, her competitive spirit ignited, leaned in with a smile that didn't reach her eyes and quipped, "Yeah, those tunes were sweet, Dolly, but let's be real, the real fire came when we spiced it up with some contemporary flair, showed folks that gospel could groove, not just croon." The words landed like a slap, and Dolly's face, usually a canvas of perpetual warmth, flushed beneath her makeup. "Spice? Honey, that wasn't spice, that was you tryin' to turn my church choir into a block party, and it nearly derailed the whole dang thing." She shot back, her voice rising in pitch and volume, the drawl sharpening into something fiercer. The audience gasped collectively, a wave of shock rippling through the seats, some clapping tentatively as if unsure whether this was scripted theater or spontaneous combustion. Latifah, undeterred, rose halfway from her chair, her hands gesturing emphatically as she defended her vision. "Derail? Girl, I elevated it. Without that energy, we'd have been just another sleepy southern sing-along, forgotten by the second verse." The studio fell into a stunned hush, broken only by the hum of cameras capturing every micro-expression, the way Dolly's manicured nails dug into the armrest, the flicker of hurt in Latifah's eyes betraying the respect she truly held for her counterpart. Producers scrambled behind the scenes, one frantically dialing the network execs, another signaling the floor manager to prepare for an abrupt end, but the women were locked in now, a verbal tango of titans that no intervention could halt. Flashbacks to their film set flooded the narrative in their minds. The playful jabs during rehearsals, the food fight that had them doubled over in laughter, now twisted into ammunition for this unforeseen feud. Social media surged like a digital tsunami, tweets pouring in from fans dissecting every line. "Dolly's right, keep it pure." Versus, "Latifah's bringing the truth, evolve or die," while entertainment outlets live blogged the chaos, speculating on backstage apologies or irreparable rifts. The dispute delved deeper, touching on broader industry woes. Dolly lamenting how streaming algorithms favored flash over substance, Latifah countering with stories of black artists fighting for visibility in a genre dominated by twangy tales of lost love. Each point struck home, revealing vulnerabilities neither had intended to bear on national television, The loneliness of the spotlight, the scars of rejection, the relentless drive that built empires from humble beginnings. The audience, torn between awe and anxiety, watched as these icons, who had inspired millions with their grace, now embodied the raw, unfiltered humanity that made them relatable. Stage lights cast long shadows, amplifying the drama, as crew members froze in place, unwilling to miss a beat of this historic unraveling. It was a moment that transcended the screen, a reminder that even legends bleed passion, their words weapons forged in the fires of lifelong dedication. And as the argument peaked, with Dolly accusing Latifah of Hollywoodizing sacred sounds and Latifah retorting that Dolly's nostalgia was a pretty cage for creativity, the unbreakable bond of their shared artistry teetered on the brink, threatening to snap under the weight of pride and principle. Chaos erupted in the wake of those blistering exchanges, the studio transforming from a haven of harmony into a whirlwind of whispered urgencies and wide-eyed stares. Queen Latifah, her chest heaving with the adrenaline of a rap battle won and lost in equal measure, attempted one last olive branch, extending a hand across the divide with a soft, "Dolly, we're sisters in this, aren't we? Both fightin' for our voices in a man's world." But Dolly, her emotions a tangled knot of betrayal and defiance, recoiled as if scorched, the gesture hanging in the air like an unanswered plea. "Sisters. Maybe on screen, but right now, I feel like I'm talking to a stranger who don't respect where I come from," she replied, her voice cracking just enough to pierce the tension, revealing the depth of hurt beneath the bravado. The audience, a sea of frozen faces, began to murmur, some standing in support of one or the other, the divide as stark as the spotlights overhead. Backstage, the production team mobilized like a SWAT unit, publicists drafting damage control statements, lawyers on speed dial for potential libel spins, and the hosts team briefing Latifah on exit strategies that preserved her dignity without escalating the inferno. Yet, in the eye of the storm, Dolly rose from her seat with the poise of a woman who'd faced down worse than a talk show tussle: poverty, heartbreak, the relentless grind of show business that chews up dreams and spits out survivors. Her heels clicked authoritatively against the polished floor as she turned toward the wings, pausing only to blow a kiss to the stunned crowd, a final flourish of her unyielding charm. "Y'all been wonderful, but this mountain girl's had enough of the city heat for one day," she declared, her tone a blend of sorrow and sass that elicited a mix of applause and sighs. Latifah, rooted to her spot, watched the exit with a cocktail of regret and resolve, her mind racing through replays of the conversation, questioning where admiration had curdled into confrontation. As Dolly vanished behind the crimson curtains, the studio lights dimmed instinctively, the director calling cut with a voice that trembled from the weight of what had just transpired. Outside, paparazzi swarmed like locusts, flashes popping as Dolly emerged into the daylight, her smile pasted on for the cameras but her eyes distant, already composing the narrative she'd spin in tomorrow's headlines. Fans lined the barriers, chanting her name in solidarity, offering hugs and homemade signs that read, "Dolly forever, authenticity wins," a balm to the sting of the moment. Meanwhile, inside, Latifah addressed the audience with practiced grace, acknowledging the passionate difference of opinions, and pivoting to a pre-taped musical performance, but the magic was gone, the energy sapped by the ghost of the departed diva. Social media, that merciless mirror of public sentiment, lit up with a frenzy of opinions. Viral clips dissected frame by frame, memes pitting Dolly's wigs against Latifah's crowns, and think pieces pondering the clash as a metaphor for America's cultural schisms. Entertainment pundits weighed in from every angle, some hailing it as the most authentic TV moment since the Oprah-Chris Brown reconciliation, others decrying it as a manufactured meltdown for ratings. Behind closed doors, agents from both camps convened emergency calls, weighing apologies against the PR boon of buzz, while the women's inner circles provided shoulders for the tears that finally fell in private. For Dolly, the walk-off was cathartic, a reclamation of her narrative in an industry that often diluted her sparkle. For Latifah, it was a gut punch, a reminder that even queens could wound each other in the pursuit of truth. The incident rippled outward, inspiring water-cooler debates and late-night monologues, cementing its place as a pivotal chapter in the annals of celebrity lore, where vulnerability met valor on live television.